Thomas Astruc, the creator of Miraculous Ladybug, has quite an interesting relationship with fans on social media. I cannot even begin to cover everything he said on Twitter or X. But my account is about the order of Miraculous Ladybug, and with the release of Season 6, he said some quite controversial statements about the order of the show. So in this video, we'll talk about what Thomas Astruc has said about the Season 6 order of Miraculous Ladybug in January of 2025. The release order of Miraculous Ladybug has long been a source of frustration for fans, especially since broadcasters from across the world seem to release episodes whenever they get their hands on one, blatantly ignoring any logical sense of order or continuity. There's never been a confirmed order from the Miraculous team, but the production order was deemed the best viewing experience, for the most part, past Season 2. Unfortunately, with Season 6, the issue has worsened. The show's creator, Thomas, insists that the episodes can be watched in any order. I'll look into each of his claims in this video, but I'll tell you from the top, these arguments don't hold up when examined closely. Miraculous is primarily aimed at children and teens, yet it includes unfolding elements such as character development, world building, and overarching storylines. The insistence that episode order doesn't matter is not only misleading, but also undermines the viewing experience. Based on what I've observed, Thomas Astruc shows poor judgment as a showrunner and is often toxic and bullying towards fans, and refuses to take accountability. Honestly, I really don't care if Thomas watches this and calls me a disrespectful Miraculous fan. When he disrespects the intelligence of his audience and doesn't show much integrity, I have issues with him. I don't need to have blind loyalty just because he's creative and is the lead of a show and a world I very much enjoy. While he does well to entertain a fan base and an audience, he makes questionable comments online, often disregarding elements of his own show. Let me go through and point out the flaws in what he has been saying on his social media platforms Blue Sky and X, or Twitter. Claim 1. Thomas said, episodes work as standalones and can be viewed in a random order, like Season 2 or Season 3. When chronological informations are needed, most of the time they'll be given in the teaser. You'll be smart enough to recreate the timeline if you want to. Only 2 or 3 last episodes should be watched, well, last. Let's first go over the false claim that Season 2 or Season 3 can be watched randomly. I'll provide a few examples. In Season 2, Chloe becomes the villain Queen Wasp. In the very beginning of the episode Reverser, Nathaniel is shown drawing her as a villain. This establishes continuity that requires these episodes to be watched in the proper order. It'd be like watching a mystery show and seeing the villain's reveal before any clues are introduced. Similarly, in the episode A Nazi, Nino gets a miraculous and a hero name. Later in the episode Maledictator, he is mentioned.
Rena Rouge and Carapace helped Ladybug save Paris, but nobody threw them a party.
That's because we don't know their true identities, unlike Chloe.
You cannot watch Maledictator before A Nazi without spoiling the reveal of his new identity before it's happened. Next, in Season 3, Marinette is handing out Miraculous to others. Therefore, characters cannot appear before their heroes are introduced. Netflix actually makes this mistake. The episode Party Crasher features the heroes Viperion and Pegasus. But if you watch this episode first, it spoils their introductions in the episodes Star Train and Desperata. This not only spoils the surprise, but also robs the audience of a proper narrative build-up that creates emotional payoff. Additionally, Master Fu leaves his studio in the episode Feast, so another episode randomly watched after that, such as Miracular, would not make sense as he is back in that setting. So even from the beginning of that statement alone, we can discredit everything Thomas says going forward. But let's do one more example of how episodes cannot be seen out of order from Season 6. You literally have Alia and Nino talk to 2 characters about what it's like to be akumatized before we see this happen. If we choose to see this episode first, this tells us that 2 people have become villains before we even witness it ourselves in the episode that they are meant to occur. There is plot. There is sequential order. When characters discuss experiences that the audience hasn't seen, it disrupts immersion and causes unnecessary confusion. That isn't standalone. That's broken narrative. This moment from episode 2 proves that there is sequential order, and it could have easily been changed if this episode was labeled as episode 3. But it wasn't, and that is on the showrunners and the producers. These examples show there is an order. Perhaps you could say a loose one, but it exists. So even if you want to argue that some episodes can be standalone, I've given proof that there are moments that undeniably establish progression of events. Trying to pretend otherwise is misleading and disrespectful to your audience. And to his point about episodes being standalone, Miraculous Ladybug isn't an anthology series. Anthologies are composed of individual, self-contained stories that don't require a strict sequence. These show episodes have a clear beginning and end, with no necessary tie-ins to previous or future episodes. Miraculous Ladybug, however, is deeply serialized. Characters evolve over time, relationships develop, and critical plot points build on previous events. Another point to note is him stating you'll see them in the teaser. Well, some of us don't watch the teasers before the episodes, and this totally disregards streaming where there are no teasers. They just release episodes. So this statement makes no sense to me. Speaking of streaming, if you think episodes can be viewed in any order, streaming services will place them in any order. Which they do anyways with this show, probably due to this attitude from the creator. Next, you'll be smart enough to recreate the timeline. Listen, Thomas, you put too much faith in people. Some people will just be confused and stay confused. Even so, they shouldn't have to be smart enough because you're the one who should make this as least confusing as possible for your audience. You shouldn't have to ask in the audience's ability to piece together your narrative when it should be presented clearly in the first place. And anyways, we fans shouldn't have to be the ones untangling episodes. You make the show! You can put it in order! It's been done in the past. Why have you decided it's too much work now? I shouldn't have to be the one recreating it. You're making it. You're creating the show. Why do I have to go and do the extra work of creating a way that makes sense when that's your job?
Sick! I am sick of it!
Yes, my whole account is about the Miraculous Ladybug watch order, and maybe you think you're giving me content by creating confusion, but I would have never created this account if you and the broadcast companies and the streaming services had actually cared in the first place. Ooh. Claim 2. So don't overthink it, just enjoy. If anything, I think you're underthinking it. If I must overthink things when you release an episode and I go to watch it, and in the story it tells me of an event I haven't seen happen as if I should. If anything, I think it's a normal thought to say, I haven't seen what they're talking about. Is this right? Those are normal thoughts, Thomas. You're the one who's jumping through hoops trying to manipulate us into thinking that we're in our heads too much or overanalyzing. The argument that these TV episodes can be consumed in any sequence is flawed at its core. Unlike some series, Miraculous Ladybug has always had an evolving plot. In prior seasons, major developments like the reveal of new Miraculous wielders, the evolution of Marinette and Adrian's relationship, and the overarching battle against Hawkmoth have required specific sequencing to be properly understood. Suddenly abandoning that structure in the 6th season is not just a bizarre choice, it actively damages the integrity of the show. Let's also talk about Miraculous Ladybug's fan base. Their show isn't just a simple kids cartoon. It's developed a dedicated following of older fans who appreciate the intricate storytelling, character growth, and the emotional payoff that comes from following the narrative in a proper order. Moreover, when you tell people not to overthink, you're invalidating their genuine interest in the series. There are fans that aren't just looking for passive entertainment, they want an engaging experience. To dismiss their concerns is not only frustrating, but disrespectful. Just enjoy it is a classic example of deflecting valid criticism. It seems as if he wants to trivialize the issue by labeling fans as overthinkers, when in reality, these aren't trivial concerns.
He'll reject me. You're overthinking it.
Claim 3. So, a fan asks, hey, so I have a question. If the episode we just watched was episode 2, then how did Sublime's mother already become akumatized? Wouldn't the episode rather be episode 3 instead of 2? Production order is not a watching order. You're all overthinking it. First of all, you didn't address the question. You didn't answer why people were confused. You just deflected. If the production order isn't the watch order, then what is? I have an order, Ladybug watch order, so if you're wondering, link in the description. Secondly, if the production order isn't the watch order, then how are we supposed to know what the watch order is? If it is produced as episode 2, Although aired as episode 1, but labeled as episode 2, are we really overthinking things when suddenly it turns out not to be episode 1 or 2? How are we supposed to know? Just by watching it? So we risk spoiling ourselves just to figure it out? You should be the one figuring out what a good order to watch it should be. You are in charge of the production order and can change the labels of them. So the only reason it isn't watching order is because you decided it was that way and didn't want to change things to benefit the audience. This sounds at best lazy and at worst willful incompetence. Thirdly, for the past 3 seasons, production order has been the watch order. Why are you changing it now? Season 3 to 5 production order is the best viewing order. But now there's this hiccup and you claim this isn't the case? Because it really sounds like you just don't want to take accountability for a mistake. Is it really overthinking to want the show to maintain this consistent structure?
How disappointing.
Claim 4. There's just one way to assemble the pieces together, but you can start the puzzle by the corner or the center. It'll make no difference in the end. Now, this isn't the only time Thomas talks about puzzles. I want to isolate this quote here first, just to point some things out. He'll mention puzzles again in a longer quote next. This analogy fails because even puzzles have defined edges and pieces that need to be connected in a specific way. This is what makes the puzzle complete. It can't just be thrown together randomly. Watching a serialized show out of order is more like reading the middle of a book before its beginning. Important details are missing, context is lost, and the impact of key moments is diluted. Thomas's attitude and season 6's approach to the episode order is not only frustrating, but unnecessary. The show has successfully maintained a more structured chronology in the past, so why change it now? If anything, as the show enters 10 years of airing, maintaining a proper sequence should be even more important to ensure a satisfying experience. But no, now it's turned into a game of looking at episodes as puzzles, which makes no sense! Claim 5. Here's a long quote from him. I'll make it simple. We write a story first. It's called story 1. We write a second story. It's called story 2. But the stories don't follow each other. They're independent. So you can watch them out of order. Depending on the technical difficulties of the episode, sometimes we'll launch production of some episodes before others. So, for example, episode 12 may be produced before episode 4. That's why there's no point in referring to the production order. It just lets you know that 1 was written before 2. Wow, great info. But as the stories are independent, 2 can be watched before 1. It doesn't change a thing. Each story is a piece of a big puzzle. And just as in a puzzle, you can put the pieces together in any order you like. The picture at the end will always be the same. So, this is just wrong. He says he's going to be simple, but in fact he's trying to pretend that the order doesn't matter, which we already established it does. And I must say, episode 2 can't be watched before 1. It does change a thing. Watching TV shows or movies is not like assembling a puzzle. Just as you wouldn't give someone books in a series out of order, you wouldn't want to present TV episodes out of order, especially if there are plot ramifications from one episode to another. Keeping with the book analogy, it shouldn't be up to the readers to figure out what book should be read first, second, or third. That responsibility lies with the author. Imagine if an author wrote a series of books and then told the readers, hey, it doesn't matter what book you read first, just pick anyone, you'll get the same experience. So you listen to this advice, but then find that the events in a book series have chronological order, and that would confuse the reader. I hope my book analogy is making sense to my broader point. Continuity is critical in storytelling. Dropping essential details randomly throughout an out-of-sequence narrative forces viewers to piece together the storyline like a detective of a crime scene. This isn't an engaging way to experience a show, it's a chore. Television thrives on consistency, and a serialized show abandoning any sense of a chronological production order in its 6th season is baffling. Why ditch the established way of doing things now? Because, as I said before, Miraculous has done a production order that makes sense in the past. But suddenly, this season it doesn't matter? This season you can produce episodes however you want? Another reason this isn't like a puzzle. In theory, you can start puzzles with any piece. You can't do that with a TV show. By Thomas's own admission in a previous point, everything is building towards an end, a finale. Even puzzles build upon themselves into a final picture. Think of watching a TV show or movie like setting up a line of dominoes. If you carefully arrange the dominoes in a specific order, they create a beautiful chain reaction when you tip the first one. Each piece building on the last creates a seamless experience where the story unfolds naturally and emotionally. However, if you start knocking them down out of sequence, you disrupt that flow. The impact is lost and the whole experience just feels jumbled and incomplete. Just as you wouldn't want to topple your dominoes at random, watching an episode out of order prevents the story from developing as intended and can diminish your overall enjoyment. Keeping everything in order allows the narrative to resonate fully, just like a perfectly executed chain reaction of falling dominoes.
Don't stop. Yes, keep going. Just like that. Almost there. Almost there.
When the flow is disrupted, the emotional payoff is lost. Claim 6. Another user said, "So you want us to figure it out like a game? Because if so, challenge accepted." And Thomas says, "You can take it like this, yeah." Again, this shouldn't be a game for us viewers to have to play, and some of us don't want to play it. Watching the show shouldn't be like something we have to decipher like a puzzle. Let's be real here. It isn't typical for TV shows to expect audiences to do this. Because in my experience, other shows have a narrative and an order that is usually pretty straightforward. The idea of a show asking its audience to decode its storyline is bonkers, especially one that airs on a mainstream platform like Disney Channel. I don't know of any other TV show that asks its viewers to figure out the correct order on their own. Maybe that'd be a fun Netflix idea, but who knows if the execution would work. I don't think it works here. In reality, I just don't think Thomas or the broadcasters really care if the viewers are confused. They're in the game of making money. At the end of the day, television should be about storytelling, a medium that allows the audience to absorb the narrative without needing a roadmap. A glaring issue with this take is the unnecessary burden it places on the audience. Watching a show should not require research, fan-made episode guides, or detective work. The average viewer, especially children who make up a large portion of Miraculous Ladybug's audience, should be able to watch the episodes as they are released without encountering spoilers or feeling lost. The responsibility of structuring a coherent story should fall on the creators, not the fans. Claim 7. Now, the wording on this one confuses me a little bit, but let's try and go for it. Looking in order allows us to follow the logic of thought that we had during writing, but we thought of the writing so that it could be followed in disorder. So my interpretation of this is they have an order, maybe production order, to look at and follow logic, but that they wrote it so that it could be followed in any order. So first of all, they do use an order, so they can use an order to follow their logic in writing, but we can't use an order to follow logic when it's airing or streaming or anything. But he says that they wrote it in a way that it could be followed in disorder. Well, you failed because it can't. So I don't know, it just seems a little hypocritical that he says that they follow an order, but you also don't have to follow an order. To me, it just sounds like he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, so.
You're all ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous.
It's blatantly obvious to those of us who have watched the show. In episode 2, there are elements that clearly reference events from episode 3, moments that haven't even happened yet. It raises the question, why are characters discussing plot points that the audience hasn't even witnessed? Does it make sense to understand this interaction out of context? No, of course it doesn't. And it's poor writing on your part if you thought this wouldn't be an issue. Creating a show that can be aired in any way would be smart, since those broadcasting Miraculous can't seem to get it in their heads that they need to air episodes in a way that doesn't cause confusion. But you even failed on that front. You wrote moments in episodes that impact others. This kind of episode release creates a disconnect with viewers and undermines their experience. It feels as if you're purposely putting viewers in a game of catch-up where we're constantly piecing together plot points retroactively. Perhaps if you put more pressure on broadcasters and streaming services to get the order right, you wouldn't even have to try to tell this lie that the show's episodes don't matter. It's a really missed opportunity that the creators won't communicate directly with broadcasters and streaming platforms about these issues. If they pushed for consistent episode releases that aligned with the intended viewer experience, then fans wouldn't have to decipher the story like Sherlock Holmes. Watching the show the way you're giving it to us leads to unnecessary spoilers, because events are referenced before they occur. In my eyes, there seems to be a disconnect between the creators and the audience, leading to a viewing experience that feels more like a chore than entertainment. We shouldn't have to act like detectives just to understand what is happening. The way it's being aired often leads to unintentional spoilers. Perhaps unintentional isn't the right word, because more realistically, the creators and broadcasters just don't really care if you get spoiled. I guess I've kind of proven that point just by making this video. That just ruins the viewing experience of those just trying to enjoy watching the show naturally. Claim 8. Here, Thomas is basically co-signing this statement. I think he's trying to say that all the episodes are episodic, so they don't have to be released in chronological order. Although they are episodic, they still have clues hinting the order the episodes are in. Simple as that. Again, it's not so simple. I've already given evidence that there are many episodes that are not episodic. Let me give a brief example from season 1. In the opening shot of Evil Illustrator, we see Marinette is attacked by both Stormy Weather and Lady Wi-Fi. Therefore, this episode needs to be after both of those episodes where those villains are introduced. If you're a first-time viewer and you watch Evil Illustrator out of sequence, the moment you see those villains will not only spoil you, but you won't understand their significance. Such instances aren't mere clues. They are blatant character introductions and essential plot points. This same pattern holds true across all the other seasons, including season 6. The issue lies in the impact these sequences have on character development and story arcs. When episodes are released out of order, vital backstories, relationships, and context can be lost. This makes it challenging for viewers to fully engage with the character's journey and understand the nuances of their interactions. Also, don't take my word for it. Let me share the wisdom of other people who have commented in response to what Thomas has said. Sebastian says, "That clearly is not the case as shown by Sublime's mother and the mayor being claimed to be akumatized when we have seen no such thing. That means there is an order. Narrative order. Maybe it might be a loose one, but it is there. Them writing out of order explains a lot too." Jonathan, "But continuity is important towards your story." Star Bunny, "But the production order was objectively the correct order the last 2 seasons." Ben Russell, "Go, Guff. We write random stuff. If you're looking for a consistently developed story or characters, you've come to the wrong show, and I'm proud of that." Alex D, "This guy's nuts. If it was a freak of the week kind of show, like it was in the first season, things would be fine. But they're really showing that these need to be in order, so I guess it's up to the fans to figure it out. What kind of showrunner is this guy?" Benji, "Equating a series to something that should only be evaluated in the end with no sense of quality control on the journey is honestly laughable. You'd think that as time went on, Miraculous would be less episodic and more structured." Adortor 10,000, I'm so sorry. "A cartoon who compromises their audience with a major story arc and character development should take the minimum care of following a continuity. It doesn't. It can have independent episodes, but order the episodes in a way we won't be spoiled in episode 2 with things that happen in episode 14. Nightshade, "It confuses people. Almost all the fans of the show want to watch it in order. People can't enjoy a show if it's out of order and is confusing. Stop doing that. It's annoying people." Leo, "You literally said the opposite before. Maybe we should assume that a mistake was made instead of being so stubborn, eh?" The Clockwork Witch, "But why? Why are you releasing them not in a chronological order and say it doesn't matter because it absolutely does? There's consistent continuity in the show that proves that this should be watched in a chronological order. So why release them not as such?" big shout out to those who made these comments. A lot of what these guys said, as you see, have been used in my own plot points, so they also get credit for kind of writing this YouTube script. There is plenty of other shit that Thomas has said to people on his social media. It's always been a war zone for Miraculous fans, especially if they have different opinions than him. Just 2 things I found while looking through his tweets. Life advice. Learn to stay quiet when you're not properly informed. Put me in the writer's seat. You'd be fired before even completing 1 episode. Rude. While I was going through and getting these claims from Thomas's social media, I noticed that Thomas will also happily argue with anyone that has homophobic or racist views. Now, this is commendable, and I gotta give him credit for standing up against people who spread hate. However, when it comes to Miraculous fans and them even giving a hint of criticism about the show or how he's handling it, Thomas seems to just completely disdain them and often just blocks people even if they aren't being mean or hateful. So he engages with outlandish online comments, but is dismissive of feedback about Miraculous and how it could improve. Okay. Now, cover your ears, children, because here's my bitter, reductive, honest opinion about Thomas. He is a whiny, self-labeled troll and is honestly kind of a bitch. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have made some of these points or the whole last section of the video if he hadn't have blocked me on Blue Sky. Like, what the hell? I wasn't even being mean to him on there, unlike other comments I've seen responding to him. I was just pointing out things about the order of the show and a lot of what I've said in this video. Trying to offer criticism, not hostility. Feel free to go follow me on Blue Sky and see if I said anything unreasonable. But I've said everything here that I've said on there, so. If Thomas hasn't blocked you on social media sites, maybe you can get through to him. If you want to risk it. So, really, if Thomas wants to act like a child who doesn't want to hear what I have to say, then I'm not tiptoeing around what I have to say about him. Also, while I am doing this video, Thomas posted on Blue Sky that Twitter is for trolling and Blue Sky is for real conversations. First of all, what a bunch of bullshit. Now, I acknowledge I'm probably taking this all a little too personal, but I didn't get a real conversation. He says he's willing to talk, but then plugs his ears when someone says something he doesn't like, and I don't think that's what a real conversation is. Secondly, if you're admitting you're still gonna be a jerk on X, what's gonna keep you from being a jerk and not having those real conversations on Blue Sky? If you're acting one way on one platform, what's to stop you from being that way on another? I think this post is a little manipulative, making it seem he's more open to a conversation than he actually is. But if for some reason Thomas is watching this video and you can get over all the criticisms and all the shit I said, I'm happy to have a conversation and talk about things and be thorough about things. And I'm certainly happy to admit if I got something wrong. I'm a flawed person and I mess things up all the time. Heck, have you seen how many times I've repeated myself in this video and I've had to refilm so many things? So I'm extending that little olive branch. Happy to talk. But Thomas unblocking someone and admitting that he was wrong? Pfft, yeah, right. Now, despite all my critiques, unlike some other people, I'm willing to give Thomas some grace. Even now, I'll admit he's creative, passionate, and knows how to engage people in a story and a world. And he seems to genuinely care about so many social issues, especially not shying away from his support of the LGBTQ community. And that is something I for sure respect. But otherwise, if he doesn't want to show respect to the Miraculous fandom, I don't know why I should bend over backwards trying to show respect to him back. Specifically, his claims about the show's order recently display a disregard of his audience and the way the show is received by them. And now we're at the conclusion. The poor release of season 6 does have consequences. This season introduces characters and story beats that assume a prior knowledge of events that haven't been shown. Again, take the example in Illustrator being the season premiere. Let me point out again that we talked to the mayor and Sublime's mother, characters who are stated to have been akumatized. Yet, we've never seen these incidents, because this episode was not intended to be viewed before those episodes. There is clearly a narrative progression happening. But instead of following a coherent release order, the episodes are scattered at random, forcing fans to piece things together themselves. Storytelling, especially in serialized media, relies on continuity. Again, if a book series were published in a jumbled order, expecting readers to figure out the correct sequence themselves, it would be universally criticized. The same principle applies to television. While individual episodes might hold self-contained conflicts, the larger narrative must be respected. Events build on one another, characters develop through experiences, and emotional payoffs only work when the groundwork has been laid in the right order. Ultimately, Miraculous Ladybug is a story-driven show that has continuity, character development, and overarching narratives that require proper sequencing. The idea that episodes can be viewed randomly is not only misleading, but actively harmful to the viewing experience. Thomas, you've created something beloved, but you're making it unnecessarily frustrating. It's time to stop pretending this isn't an issue, and start respecting the story you're telling. Because it's as much disservice to the show as it is the audience that things are getting aired out of order. Fans aren't asking for much, just the ability to enjoy the show as it was meant to be experienced, without unnecessary confusion or frustration. A clear, structured order benefits everyone. The writers can craft a more coherent story, the animators can avoid inconsistencies, and the audience can engage with the narrative without distractions. Miraculous Ladybug has always had a passionate and devoted fan base. But that loyalty should not be tested with careless storytelling decisions. It really is time for the show to respect its own continuity and give viewers the structured, immersive experience they deserve. For the sake of the future of the series, I hope Thomas and the team take this feedback seriously and address the problems with the season's release order. Although, I highly doubt they will. Hello, you've survived the longer video, and it's still not over. These are just some post-script thoughts I'd throw in at the end. If it sounded like I was reading off a script, it's because I was. Trust me, if I wasn't, I'd be repeating myself and I'd sound like an awful mess. Yeah, I wrote 8 to 10 pages, put it through Grammarly. I think I write better than I talk, but I wanted to make a video just because. But who knows, let me know if you liked what I said, how I said it. I know I've been off YouTube and other social media for a while talking about Miraculous Ladybug. You can blame corporate America. But I hope to come back and make more content about the show, including the flaws with production order. We've talked about that a little bit today. The Wikipedia order, yikes. And, of course, the order of season 6, because I just know they're gonna keep on messing it up. Speaking of the creator, there are plenty of other videos here on YouTube talking about Thomas and his relationship with the fandom. I encourage you to seek those out and watch them. There are definitely some good ones out there. So yeah, Thomas said stuff about season 6. It's a problem, and I'm sure it'll keep being a problem. So maybe you'll see me more. All right, as I'm sure you can tell, we're almost over. So please give this video a like if you liked it. Comment your thoughts about what I said, or maybe something came to mind that I didn't say. And subscribe if you want to hear me rant more about the Ladybug Watch Order. That's all, folks.